Excellency Ambassador Marcel Tibaleka. We'd like to thank you for granting us this opportunity to interview you. We are Claire Caruth and Anna Safarti from the Institute for Cultural Diplomacy. And we'd like to start off the interview with a question on your career. So prior to being an ambassador, you had a lengthy career in the Ugandan police force. And we'd like to ask you what made you decide to become a diplomat, and how did your previous experience help you in this position?
Maybe before I go on to answering that question, I need to give you some bit of background.
Of course.
How my representation came into being. When I was at the age of 13, that is the year 1962, when we were attaining our independence from the British Empire. I was in primary school that time, and by that time we were in the Uganda Kingdom. You know, if you have read some history about Uganda, and that was Mubende district where I happened to be. And in the primary schools, they went on selecting 2 pupils to attend the independence anniversary. And I was one of those 2 from my primary school. That's why I'm bringing this one, that was the first kind of representation coming in. Of course, as I said earlier on, and you have the history, I worked in the Uganda police for a long time. After 79 war, that was during Idi Amin's regime, when it was overthrown, I was one of the officers selected to go to Nairobi to open up what they call the Uganda Liaison Office. The purpose of that Uganda Liaison Office was to facilitate Ugandans who had been in exile and wanted to come back home. So we opened up the Uganda Liaison Office, and that was 79. 80, or towards the end of 79, I left and came back to Uganda. And then in 1980, I would say the whole of 1980, I was out of the country for further studies in my career, first in the UK and then in France. So that is what happened now, the beginning. I had seen all the 7 questions you put to me and had written something down. Because I realized I will not have all the 7 questions and the answer, be storing the answer straight away, because some of them are a little bit long to this. So briefly, I would just take this opportunity to tell you the reason why I found myself ambassador. As you know, I'm not a career diplomat, but became an ambassador by an appointment from His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. This one, of course, I had already retired from the police service. At that time, we were retiring at 55 years, and I had attained those 55 years, and also had a contract for 2 years, and finally gone back to the rural area, and that's where I was picked from. Of course, there is a reason. Which reason, I don't know. The appointing authority himself must have had that reason. So, my long career in the Uganda Civil Service, namely the Uganda Police Force, has turned out an invaluable assist in my work as ambassador. You get it? In the police, you have to adapt to different challenges and situations on a daily basis. That's police duty. It's not like a diploma. Sometimes the diplomatic sources also. My involvement in cultural and political activities in Uganda, together with my career in the Uganda Police Force, have shaped my destiny to become ambassador. We talk of cultural, we are now on cultural issues, but we'll come to that one later. I am now ambassador in Germany. 3 years I have already done as ambassador. Of course, that puts me off the first question that you put me, what made me to become ambassador. I've given you the highlight, the background, how it started, and maybe it was a follow-up of what had earlier happened. Maybe the president must have gone through the records, seeing the liaison office in Nairobi, which is now a high commission, and maybe later on I'll talk about it, because eventually I was even posted there in the early 80s in Nairobi, but not at this level of ambassador. Yeah.
Okay.
So does that somehow clarify?
Yes, thank you.
How I...
And so I'd like to follow up by asking you, how would you define cultural diplomacy today, and what does it mean to you? And could you also maybe please specify how you think cultural diplomacy can be used to strengthen ties between Uganda and Germany?
Well, to me, to understand the way, in the first place, the word cultural, I first learned of it from the French embassy. Because that time there was a cultural attaché. Yeah? That one attracted me so well. Because during my school days, secondary school days, I had really great interest in the French language. So when they said there was a cultural responsible for, actually was taking education, other cultural functions and so on. So I went to the French embassy, and first of all I registered myself at Alliance Française. That was when I was still in police service. And later on I went to the then Institute of Public Administration. They were offering the French language under the cultural attaché of the French embassy. So I did my French certificate, and of course later on I even won the scholarship to go and study the French language at Clermont-Ferrand. You might have heard of that. I remember that time meeting some German students. So that was the French language. It also combined with my field of profession. They also arranged for police training, which I also did in France. So, and that is what I'm coming to after that one. What was a cultural fact? From there, when I returned back home, the then Uganda liaison office in Nairobi had become a high commission. And Foreign Service again requested for someone with a bilingual status. And that's why again I was posted to Nairobi. I stayed there 3 years, and 3 years I returned back to my service until retirement. So the term cultural diplomacy is relatively new. However, the practice of cultural diplomacy has been exercised for centuries when explorers, traders, educators, and even missionaries have traveled the globe as informal or cultural ambassadors. You know the history of the explorers. They traveled all across the Atlantic. Yeah? To me, cultural diplomacy, especially in times of intense globalization and readily available access to mass media, information and technology transfer, is utmost importance. Now that we are always available at all times, both positively and negatively, cultural diplomacy is essential in the promotion of stability, peace, and social-cultural interaction. When you look at the guiding principles of cultural diplomacy, namely respect and recognition of cultural diversity, some maybe for you here are very lucky. With us we have 54 ethnicities in Uganda, each one with its own dialect. But we respect each other, I am able to recognize if someone speaks, much as I don't speak that language. I say, this one is definitely from that location. The protection of international human rights and global peace and stability, one can easily see why cultural diplomacy is of such importance in the world of international diplomacy. I believe that cultural diplomacy is an integral part of political, economic, and commercial diplomacy that should be applied together to achieve a common goal. We are bringing on board commercial diplomacy. Soon the funds have been available for us, but in the past there wasn't such money. I think it's about a week or 8 days. I returned from Uganda, having gone there with the German Africa Verein group of business people. So you can see how it is coming. In my role as ambassador, I focus on 3 issues. The first is to increase Uganda's visibility in Germany. That's why I'm encouraging you. Let us not end here. Mm-hmm. After this one, please make an effort to make some saving and come over to Uganda. I want Germans to know more about my country other than being a major tourism destination. The second is promotion of foreign investment. I've just said we were there and we were able to meet the president. And trade between Uganda, Germany, which is part of my mission in the field of economic and commercial diplomacy. Uganda is a land with enormous business opportunities, and both German and Ugandan institutions are actively seeking to promote bilateral economic relations. The third is the support of Ugandan diaspora in Berlin and other areas of accreditation. Ugandan in the diaspora. The other time I was in Munich, I was so impressed, the Ugandans who were there. That was my first time as well, also to meet them. That evening, over almost 200 of them were present on that function. For these ones in Berlin here, they are there, but since I came out, to be honest, I think I have not had more than a set of them coming over here. But one time when I had a function at the residence, I was overwhelmed. They came in big numbers. So I don't know whether here they say after all there is nothing to get or what. They only come when they have a problem. Of course, the embassy in Berlin is actively involved with the Uganda community in Germany. On our website, we invite Ugandans to register and actively stay in contact with the embassy and our homeland. Now, the majority of people, when they come over here, for various reasons, they forget sometimes the homeland. And they say, well, since here the life is okay, everyone is getting on well, forget all. But home still remains home. I'm happy just about over last week, there was some Ugandan, Michael Alimari, who has stayed here for over 30 years or so. He came home, said he wanted to take his children home who have been born here. And he said for him, he has maintained his status. He maintains his Uganda passport. I asked a question from him. I said, but how come others? He said, yeah, others want to circulate easily in Europe. When you have your national this and that, you require visas here and there. Whereas when you have a European residence permit and so on, it is easy for you to circulate. Then I agreed, I said, okay, but you should not forget home.
Yes, I wanted now to ask you if you could give us an example of a time in which you were involved in a successful intercultural dialogue.
Exactly, I was going to that one. The most promising event in the field of intercultural dialogue is yet being materialized. I am personally involved in facilitating the cooperation and collaboration between the soon-to-be launched Uganda Institute of Diplomacy and International Affairs. I think Mr. may have already some information. A team from Uganda was supposed to have come over here on the 5th, from the 5th of September to the 9th of September to see the memorandum of understanding can be signed between the Institute, Cultural Diplomacy. But because the Prime Minister's office invited me for a retreat in Kampala, I had to postpone it until October. So October it will take place. So, to share the experience that will help develop the infant, that is UIDIA, the earlier one which I just mentioned. Ultimately, we hope to enter into a partnership and cooperation agreement through a joint memorandum of understanding. This is my child, which I'm trying to bring up because it wasn't there previously. And when I was on my VAC last year, I discussed it with the person who is trying to start up this. I say, wouldn't it be possible for you to have a cooperation with the International Cultural Diplomacy, Institute of Cultural Diplomacy? He said, okay, let's see. Unfortunately, we started the move, and we have an okay to visit. So, that is on the other of the most recent highlights was a chairmanship at this year's Commonwealth Dialogue hosted in conjunction with the British Chamber of Commerce. I was the chairperson of that. I had the opportunity to address an audience of fellow ambassadors, representatives from local business community, and interested private guests. The goal of the Commonwealth Dialogue is to offer a forum of people from different nations and professional backgrounds to socialize, network, and exchange ideas. I'm a great supporter of such gathering, since it is an excellent opportunity to put cultural diplomacy to the test. I had a number of those Commonwealth ambassadors attending. Another good example of intercultural dialogue happens through the work of our Honorary Consul in Leipzig. For example, our Honorary Consul, together with the world-famous Leipzig Zoo, organized and hosted the Uganda Congress, of which I attended. That was in February, which opened the wonderful world of Uganda's wildlife treasures to visitors and friends. Here too, a memorandum was signed between the Leipzig Zoo and the Uganda Wildlife Authority. That very same occasion. So, we are moving on.
Yeah, thank you. So that concludes my part of the interview. So now, Ms. Caruth.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I would like to ask you, according to Your Excellency, what would you say are currently the most important areas of cooperation between Uganda and Germany? And which ones do you think there might be room for improvement?
The Uganda Embassy is mandated to promote and protect Uganda's national interest in Germany. Uganda has no interest in Germany. To this effect, the embassy actively participates in events that focus on the strength, the potential, and the beauty of my country. Every year, the embassy participates in ITB. You know very well that one. International Tourism Board. The world's largest tourism fair, and we always rank among the top 10 exhibitors. Another showcase for our mission is BMZ Open Day, hosted by the Federal Minister of Economic Cooperation and Development. At informal meet and greet gatherings, people come to Uganda, stand and mingle with my staff while enjoying a cup of Ugandan Mount Elgon coffee. You know Mount Elgon coffee? This cultural diplomacy practiced at grassroots level, and we always get a very favorable feedback from our visitors. Unfortunately for this year, they said no one should bring in anything. Like they said they have their profession, this and that, will provide everything. But to us, our interest was to bring our coffee for people to taste and see. These are some of the cultural things. We want to see our way of life, our coffee, how does it taste, if there is anything to eat, So that there will be no coffee this time.
Thank you. What would Your Excellency say are currently the most important areas of cooperation between Uganda and Germany, and which areas do you think there might be a bit of room for improvement in?
Well, the German-Uganda Development Cooperation started way back in 1964, 2 years after we got our independence from Britain. It's a long way. Today, a large number of German companies, development workers and NGOs work in Uganda. As you might know, my country has substantial natural resources, including fertile soils, regular rainfall, sizable mineral deposits of copper and cobalt, as well as an untapped reserve of oil and gas. Our biggest potential lies in the fertile soil and warm tropical climate with 2 rainy seasons a year. Sometimes they say 2 rainy seasons, but it's more than that. Of course, traditionally we knew the heavy rains were for between March and April. And then they would come again from August to October. That's all. But now you have rain anytime. Even when we expect no rain in January, it is raining. And sometimes when we are expecting rain, it is not there. So climate change has all put us somewhere. So our biggest potential is in the fertile soil and warm, of course I've already said, season of the year. Agriculture provides jobs for more than 80%. I'm saying that 80% because the rural people constitute the bulk of this. So they have all the land, fertile land, and they grow their own food. Most important source of income. However, this sector is struggling to cope with outdated production methods because they don't have the tools. And the threats of ongoing deforestation. Now, I was also one of those victims. For example, before coming here, I used not to want to see forest around me. I said, no, you clear that one. Because now, when I came over here, I saw the contrary. I said, no, sorry, I'm sorry for the past. I want the forest back now. So, that is the problem we have currently. Still, people are going on clearing the forest so as to be able to plant agricultural, food, and so on, or commercial, this and that. So that challenge is still with us. Despite our wealth in natural riches, political stability, and economic growth potential, Uganda still suffers numerous challenges, predominantly in the fields of renewable energies and energy efficiency, sustainable economic development, and very important, water and sanitation. Definitely a lot has happened in these areas, but at times the progress is very slow. I am particularly concerned about the unequal access Uganda have to clean and safe water, especially in rural areas. Access to drinkable water is enormously challenging. This one you would see by yourself when you visit. But of course not to the environment where I would say, where I stay. When we were growing, we had, of course, we had a fountain, which up to today, this fountain is still being used. Fresh water, we drank it, we never fell sick. And even people in the rural area draw water from there, they don't fall sick because of this and that. It's a stream, a fountain. Actually, there is a hill nearby, but the water seems to be coming from underground somewhere, running. So, but it's still a big challenge in the rural area, and it will take a bit of time to put right. Mm-hmm.
So the next thing I'd like to ask you relates to President Museveni's recent visit to the German African Business Day on the 2nd of June. I would like to know what Your Excellency thinks, how you think that cultural diplomacy could encourage or facilitate greater economic cooperation between Uganda and Germany.
Well, the President's visit to Berlin and Hamburg in June of this year, the President had been here before. Mm-hmm. And he had indicated, I think the last time he was here in 2010 or 2009. I don't remember very well. And he had promised he would be back. Before coming here, 2013, it had been indicated the President was coming over even before I reported, but then I think there was bad weather or something, he could not come. Now, 2014, I met him in Rome at the Vatican. I reminded him of the trip he had promised to come. That time he indicated that he would be available April 2015. But as we drew closer to April, there was no further communication over that. Then I had to explain to the organizer. I said, no, we are now in politics. Yeah? This year is a year of politics. I think the President will not be able to make it. So, passed. However, in August, when I was on my annual leave, Mr. Stefan Lieben traveled to Kampala. I met him and he told me he had been able to meet the President. So I think this very year, most probably, in February again he traveled. This time he came back with a confirmation of the President's visit here, indicating that the President would be here on the 2nd of June. But with us, we came to know about it very late, because when the other one got his letter confirming, normally it should have been through us, he was kind enough. He gave us a copy. Said, you see, I'm expecting it. Then we started the move. So I'm happy we were able to welcome the President on the 2nd of June of this year, further manifested the collaboration between our two nations. If there was no collaboration, then we wouldn't have come here. And mind you, the first nation after elections, if you had the stories which ran around there, they were saying, oh, European Union during the inaugural, they walked away. But he was welcomed here. I didn't see any negative this and that. We are available, landing, whatever, the Air Force side there. And So His Excellency the President met with the senior members of German government and industry leaders from all sectors across German business. In Hamburg, the Center of International Trade and Logistics, the President also held a high-level meeting with German companies that are working on investment projects in Uganda. As a follow-up to the President's visit, German business delegation traveled to Uganda in August. This is the one I've just told you. We traveled to Uganda, where agreements and a memoranda were prepared. Naturally, commercial diplomacy at that level does not happen in absence of cultural diplomacy. The success of German companies in Uganda is based on the economic and cultural bridges that exist between our two nations. Mutual respect and political, economic, and cultural initiatives are contributing to the success of German companies in Uganda. KfW availed funds for a hydro project. And that hydro project is not really very far from my rural area there. It's close to Lake Albert. So hopefully KfW people will come to my rural home very soon. Yeah. So indeed, over the course of the last decade, we have witnessed many positive developments in Uganda that will continue to influence and speed up the modernization process in Uganda. With the cultural diplomacy, the ultimate goal is to fostering further cultural, business, investment, and tourism exchange between Uganda and Germany. For me, as matters of culture, you see this. This was my almost 25 years ago. Huh? So I'm particularly concerned about cultural. Yeah. It's not. You can even see that's myself. Okay. You might think I am faking something. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Now, I'm showing this to show that I am really interested in it. Yeah. So, I had some quite good knowledge of the German language that time. But because that 25 years ago there, no one was speaking it, the language evaporates if you don't have. Now here, there are of course protocol issues. Otherwise it would have come back a long time ago. You know where you pick the language, of course, very, very easily. If you are traveling public, if you are in these pubs, it's very easy. Within a week or two, if you are regular attendant of a pub, you'd have the language. But here, they say you go to certain places. And those certain places, the people who are there don't speak the language. They are speaking either English or French. So that's the challenge. Now my daughter who came here without a word of German language, she speaks better now than for me who was on it, I think, almost 5 years. So you see those challenges. So I think we continue with the...
Okay. Thank you very much. We just had one final question for Your Excellency, and that is, what advice would you give to young people who are wishing to pursue a career in international relations or in diplomacy?
First of all, I believe that learning foreign languages plays an important role. I'm a witness to this. That one, I'm a witness, and in diplomacy, as they create cultural bridges between people from different nations. One time a Chinese was saying, speaking a foreign language is like owning a soul of that, that person whose foreign language you are speaking. Being proficient in foreign languages is a strategic tool for expanding any diplomatic relations. Spreading cultural diplomacy amongst young people through the study of foreign languages provides a foundation for the building of a modern world without language barriers. In addition, it is essential for aspiring diplomats to keep up with current events around the world. To be successful, you need to listen well, analyze, problem solve, and learn how to apply these skills in foreign cultures. Depending on your responsibilities, you might need specialization knowledge. For example, if your job is promoting international trade, you will need to learn about a country's economy, business practices, and banking system. You will also need to learn the etiquette and customs of your host country and polite, tactful, and patient. Most of all, the true to yourself and present your country with a grace of dignity befitting a diplomat. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Well, that concludes our interview for today. We would like to thank you very much for your time and for the insight that you've given us into Ugandan-German relations and specifically relating to cultural diplomacy. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time and sharing my experience.
Thank you. We look forward to visiting Uganda.
So you are most welcome anytime, really. For me, I have all along encouraged people